And so do you want to tell us a little bit about your methodology, just for the person who's never Shiny app before?
Yeah,
When you
what I can do.
start, what do you start with first, and where do you go from there?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll share some code. So if you've never built a Shiny app before ever, it generally, all Shiny apps have two components. They have a UI, so a user interface. So this is when someone looks at your app, what do they actually see? And then you have a server file, which contains all of the code with what's happening in the background. So this is the UI file for the app I showed you. And you can see it's actually a very simple UI. There's not a lot in here. Essentially, you just have a title, and I added in some theming, so to change the color scheme of the app. And then I have this sort of panel here, which is a reactable. So this is just a table output. So you saw that with the sort of different lines in the app. And that's what someone sees when they look at the app. They see the title and they see that table. If we move over to the server file, this is a little bit messier, but the server file is essentially telling you what's going on in the background of the code to actually create that table. And the first thing it's doing is reading in the data file. So rather than live, like pulling the data live through the Twitter API, it saves it as a file, and then that file is what's being refreshed every day. So the first thing I'm doing in the server file is reading in that data set, and then I'm constructing that table output here. Okay, so I'm rendering my table. And this is not the nicest code, so I do apologize for that. But what this is doing is defining the different columns in that table. So, okay, the first column is a date. The second column gives you the users, and I want those links to be clickable. I don't just want to be some text that tells me what the username is. I want to be able to click on that username, and it takes me to their Twitter profile. So that's what these lines are doing. And the same with the links as well. I don't just want text for the link. I want an HTML link that takes me to the tweet or to the link that I saw. So that's the sort of two components that make up the actual Shiny app. And then to actually sort of deploy that Shiny app, I created a deploy.r script. So one thing you'll notice is if you are on either the UI or the server file, RStudio is quite smart and it can tell that it's a Shiny app. So what is this little button here? And this sort of is the button you click to publish and deploy your Shiny app. And that's absolutely fine if you're doing it manually. But if you're trying to use GitHub Actions to automate that deployment, then clicking a button isn't something you can do. So you have to write a script to deploy it for you. So basically what happens when this script is run is that it publishes the Shiny app onto shinyapps.io for me. Okay, so one thing you'll notice here is this line here with the set account info. In order to publish something onto shinyapps.io, you have to authenticate your account to say this is my username and password and log in and be able to deploy it. If you're doing the sort of deployment version where you're clicking a button to deploy it, you get a prompt and you can manually type in your username and password and log in. If you're doing it through a script, you want to make sure that you're keeping things like your username and password secret. You don't want to be sharing those on GitHub. So if I were running this locally, I would have a sort of .r environ file with the Shiny account name and my passwords stored in there. If I'm running this with GitHub Actions, you can use GitHub secrets. So you can create a GitHub secret called Shiny account name, and I pass my account name in there. And it's hidden from the code that's on the GitHub repo, so no one knows what it is, but it's stored within those GitHub secrets. So those are the kind of the three key components of the app. Is I have my UI script to say this is what a user sees. I have my server script to say this is how I'm computing what the user sees. And then I have my deploy script to actually publish my app.